Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's tutorial video, we're going to build a very simple blockchain application that allows us to transfer tokens from one wallet to another. So in this tutorial, our smart contract is going to allow a user to transfer tokens from one wallet to another. Some of the things that we're going to add on to the smart contract are the ability to only interact with verified tokens. So we'll have to verify specific tokens that a user can transfer. And along with transferring tokens, you can also attach a message to the transaction as well. We'll then keep track of all these transactions by emitting events to the blockchain, and in our application we'll be able to view recent transactions, see how much tokens were sent from what address to what address was the tokens going to, along with viewing the message that was sent with the transaction. So let's take a quick look at the application we're going to be building first, then we'll break down what we're going to be doing in this video. So on my computer here, I have our application here. I just called it transfer app, and we created just a very simple and quick landing page here for it. You can see up top here, it's a little image and a description saying what this app is about. You can send tokens to your friends and families with ease, and you can make a transfer here, which will take us to our transfer page. Down here, it kind of gives steps on what you need to do to transfer a token. You have to select the token, who you want to send it to, and then you can write a message as well. And down at the very bottom, you can see we have recent transfers here where we can view the part of the wallet address that was sending the transaction or the tokens and who they sent it to, along with the amount of the tokens that were sent and also the message that was sent along with that transfer. So we come up to the top back here, we can hit this make a transfer button, which is just going to take us to our transfer page right up here. And in here we have our little transfer card. Down here are the same recent events on the blockchain, so the recent transfers that we did. And here at the top we can select a token. So we have 3 verified tokens on our contract. When you select the token, it'll actually show you the balance of that token that you have. So you can see here we have our different balances here. And once you select a token, so let's just say we're using test C token, I then can put in the address I want to send the token to. So we'll put an address there. The amount I want to send, let's do even 3 to make our balance 50. And then we can write a message here. So let's just say this is to test our demo app. And once we add those things, we can transfer our token. We'll first have to set approval for the token that we're transferring. We'll just set the approval for 3 tokens because we're only sending 3 tokens here, and we'll approve that transaction. So once our tokens are approved to be transferred by our contract, we'll then have to confirm another transaction that will transfer the tokens to the specified wallet address. And there you go, we have our second transaction, so we'll confirm that. And that transaction was to actually transfer the tokens to the specified address that we put right over here. Once the transaction is done, you can see we have a little toast pop-up down here saying our transfer was successful. And you can see down here in our recent transfers, we have the transfer that we just sent, which was our 3 tokens here, and our little message that said this is to test our demo app. We have the address we sent it from plus the address we sent it to. And you can also see up here at the top, our balance for our test C token is now at 50. We'll also be adding a claim token page that you can come to, and you can claim a token. In this case, you can collect X coin and you can claim this free token so that you can test out the transfer app and you can transfer this X coin from one wallet address to another. And finally, we'll also be creating a My Account page. And My Account page, what it will do is just bring up your wallet address here, and it'll show you the token balances of the verified tokens that we have on our contract. And again, that was an example of the transfer token application that we're going to be building in this tutorial. Some of the things that we're going to be doing first is we're going to create our own custom transfer token smart contract. We're also going to deploy that smart contract. We'll then create our very own token contract using some of thirdweb's pre-built contracts, along with a TokenDrop contract, which is a claimable token. And from there, we'll be building out our application using thirdweb, and we'll go over how to build the demo app that we just went over. So without wasting any time, let's jump back onto the computer and get started. Okay, so back on my computer here, the first thing we want to do is create our transfer token smart contract. So I'm gonna head to my terminal here real quick. Let me clear that. And we're going to create a smart contract using thirdweb. Now, in my terminal, I'm going to use the command npx thirdweb. I'm going to do @latest to make sure we're using the latest version. And I'm going to do create contract. We'll then name our project. I'll call this demo token transfer. And you can choose and select the framework you want to use. In this tutorial, I'm going to use Hardhat, but feel free to use Forge as well. We'll also name our smart contract. So not the name of our project, but the name of the actual contract itself. We'll just call this token transfer contract. Now from here, you can select the type of contract you want to start from. So you can start with the standard ERC 721, ERC 20, or 1155 contracts. But because we're creating our own custom smart contract, I'm going to select empty contract here. And once it is done, you can change into your application. So demo token transfer. And we're going to open this up in our code editor. Oops. So in your code editor, you can see in your file directory here, we have a contracts folder. You can drop down that contracts folder and you can select your contract solidity file. And this is where we're going to be creating our contract for our token transfer application. I'm going to, in between here, you can see that this is our contract here. We have a constructor function and we have pragma here, which is going to be the compiler version of the compiler that we want to use. We'll leave that as is. What we will need to do first is interface our ERC20 token. So because we are creating a token transfer contract, we are going to use some of these standard functions from the ERC20 token. So we're just going to create an interface here of ERC20 interface. And some of the functions we're going to be using are right over here, which is going to be the transfer from function, which is going to allow us to send our tokens from one wallet address to another, along with the approve, which is going to allow us to approve a token to allow this contract to do the transfer for us. And then we have the balance of, which is going to be to check the balance of a specific token. Down here in our contract, this is going to be where we declare our contract here. We're going to name this again, token transfer contract. And in our token transfer contract, we're going to create a few state variables first. So let me just come down here. First one we're going to create is going to be our address. It's going to be public here. And we're going to call this the owner. And we're going to set the owner of the contract, their address to this variable here. We're also going to create a mapping of our address to a bool. This is going to be private and it's going to be for our verified tokens. So what this is going to do is create a mapping so we can check if a token is verified or not within our contract. Again, we're going to make it so that a user can only transfer verified tokens. If a verified token isn't being transferred, you won't be able to use this contract to transfer it. As well as the owner here, why we're setting an owner for the contract is only the owner of the contract. So the person that deploys the contract will be able to add verified tokens. And then finally here, we're going to have an array of addresses that is going to be, we're going to make this public because we want to be able to view that there. And this is going to be our verified tokens list. So this is going to be a list of the verified tokens. So when we verify a token, we'll just add it into this array that we're creating right here. Next, we're going to create a struct for our transaction. And this is going to be one, we have an address, which is going to be the sender. We're also going to need the address, which is going to be our receiver. We'll have a uint 256, which will be the amount, and we'll have a string that will be a message. So those are the four things that we're going to need with our transaction. We're going to be keeping track of the sender, who they sent it to, how much they sent, and the message that they sent with their transaction. And we're then going to create an event because we want to keep track of these transfers that are made on the blockchain. So with this event that we create, we'll be able to emit that event every time a transfer is done. And then we'll be able to reference this event and display it on our application. So we'll do transaction completed as our event. And in here, we're going to do our address. We're going to do indexed, and that's our sender. Same thing for our receiver. Then we have our amount and our message. So again, these are going to be the things that these are supposed to be commas here. And again, this is going to be the event that gets emitted to the blockchain. So when a transaction is completed, we'll be able to view the data of the sender, receiver, amount, and message. Oh, and these are supposed to be not brackets. There we go. And I forgot a comma right over here. There. The next thing we want to do is set our constructor here. So the constructor is a function that runs once the contract is deployed. And what we're going to be doing is setting the owner. So the owner variable that we created at the top, we're going to be setting that to the wallet address of the message sender. So this is going to be whoever deploys the contract is going to be the owner. Next in our contract, we're going to add a few modifiers. And what this is going to allow us to do is one, we can set a only owner modifier, which requires that the message sender, so whoever is putting a transaction through on our contract, they have to be the owner of the contract. So the owner that is set right here in our constructor. And if they aren't, we'll just display only the owner can call this function. So again, this is going to be used for when we have to verify a token that we're going to allow to be transferred within our contract. Next, we're going to create one more modifier, and it's going to be for our only verified token. And that's going to make sure that we check a token address. So we're just going to make an underscore token here. So we're checking to see if a token that we are going to transfer is verified. So we're going to check in our array of verified tokens that there is that token address. And if not, we'll show token is not verified. And again, that is only so that we transfer only verified tokens within our contract. So now we'll create the functions to add and remove verified tokens. We'll first create our function for our verified token. So we'll say add verified token. This is going to require an address of the token that we want to verify. It's going to be a public function here, but it is only going to be for only owner to call. And in this function, we are going to set our verified token to our token that we are verifying to true. And we are going to add that verified token to our array of verified tokens. So again, in our verified tokens here, we're setting the token to true. And then we are adding the token address that we add to our function here to our verified token list. Next, we're going to add function that removes it in case we want to remove a verified token. Again, this will take an address of the token that we want to remove. It will be a public function. And again, only owner can call this function. And in here, we're going to first require that our verified token and the token that we are checking is true. So right here, we're going to require that we check the token that we are trying to remove. And we're checking to see if it is a verified token because we don't want to try and remove a token that isn't on our verified list in the first place. So we're checking to see if it is a verified token. And if it is a verified token, then we can go forward and remove it. So we'll set the verified tokens of that token to false instead of true. And then we will use a for loop here. We're checking if this is. So in our for loop, we are going to check if our verified token And we want to look for the token that we're trying to remove. So if we're going to go through our array of verified tokens, and once we find our verified token, we are going to remove that verified token. So we're going to get that verified token in our list, and with that verified token, we're going to get the length -1. So we get the token that we need to remove, and then we will pop that verified token off our list. And that does it for our function to remove a verified token. Lastly, we're going to create a function of get verified tokens, which is going to be a public view function that returns our array of verified tokens. So we're going to be returning an array of addresses here, and we're going to return our verified tokens list. And this is so we can get a list of the token contracts that are verified on our transfer contract. Then lastly here, we need to create our transfer function. So this is going to be the function that allows us to transfer our tokens from with our contract. So we're going to create a function called transfer. So in our transfer function, we're going to have to know, one, the token that we are transferring in case we have multiple tokens that we want to transfer within our contract. We need to know who is sending. We need to know who we're sending the token to. We need to know the amount that we're sending, and we also need to know the message that we're sending with our transaction. So first thing we're going to do is we need the token contract address that we are going to be setting. So we will be setting an IERC20 interface of token. We'll be setting an address, which is going to be who the token is going to be transferred to. We'll also have a uint256 for the amount, and we'll have a string for string memory for the message. And this function is going to be public. It is going to be only for verified tokens. So verified token, and then we need to make sure that the address of the token is verified that we're trying to send, and it returns a bool to know if we have transferred the tokens or not. Returns here, there we go. So for our transfer function, we're first going to get a uint256. We're going to call it sender balance here, because we want to make sure that the balance or the amount of tokens that the sender is trying to send, that they have actually enough of that token to send. So we're going to create a sender balance here, depending on the token equals token. And depending on the token that they are sending, we're going to get the balance of the message sender. And what we're going to do is require that the sender's balance of the token that they are sending is greater than or equal to the amount that they want to send. Then we're going to, in a bool here, we'll call it success. We'll transfer the token using the transfer from function from our ERC20 interface. And that is going to take the sender, which is the person calling the transaction, who it's going to, and the amount that is going to be transferred. And we're going to then require that our transaction is successful. If not, we'll put transfer has failed. Once the transfer has gone through, we'll set our transaction here, which will be memory transaction. That's going to equal a new transaction. And for our transaction, the sender, and we're going to create a transaction here. And for our transaction, remember the struct that we created up top here. What we're going to be doing is creating a transaction. The sender is going to be the sender or the person calling the function here. The receiver is going to be the address that the sender put in to receive the token. Our amount will be amount, and our message will be the message that we are sending. Then we will emit the transaction has completed. Again, we created that event up here called transaction completed. So what we're going to post onto the blockchain is the sender, receiver, amount, and message. So we're going to emit the transaction completed event onto the blockchain, and we'll return true if everything was successful. And we have a unused, so in here we are making sure that we're sending the transaction, did I spell that right? We are doing the transaction, we're doing the transaction receiver, the transaction amount, and then the transaction message. And with that, that is our smart contract for our token transfer application. Next thing we need to do now is to deploy this contract. Now, ThirdWeb makes it super easy to deploy your smart contracts. So we'll just open up our terminal here, and all I'm going to do is npx thirdweb. I'm going to do at latest again, and I'm going to just put the deploy. You can see here that it is now detecting our project and what we're using. It sees that we're using hard hat. It's compiling our contract here. It is now going to upload our contract data, and we'll be able to deploy our contract through ThirdWeb. And what will happen is it will open up a new tab in your browser, and you'll be brought to ThirdWeb's site here, where you'll be able to deploy your smart contract that we just created. Now, if the browser window doesn't appear, you can always come into your terminal here, and you'll have the link that will bring you to the page to deploy your contract. Again, we have our contract here, our token transfer contract, and it's ready to deploy. You can select the network or chain that you want to deploy on. You can select the drop down here. For this example, let's do the Mumbai testnet, which is Polygon's testnet, and we'll click deploy now. You'll get a transaction that appears. You just have to confirm to deploy your contract, and then you can sign the message here to add it to your ThirdWeb dashboard. Once it's been deployed, you'll be brought to your contract dashboard here. And that does it. We have now deployed the smart contract that we just created for our token transfer. Next, we're going to create a token contract that we can use for an example with our token transfer contract when we're building out our application. So let's open up a new tab here, and we're going to browse contracts. Now for this example token that we're going to use within our application just to test out the transferring and everything, we're going to deploy a regular token contract. So we have a token contract. We also have a token drop contract. What the token contract is going to allow us to do is just mint tokens directly to our wallet. Whereas a token drop contract, we can make that claimable to other people, and we can make even our tokens claimable for a certain cost. But we just need tokens just so we can test out our contract and see if it's working. So we'll select the token contract here. I'll select deploy now in the top right. We'll name our token. So we'll just call this test token. We'll give it a name though. We'll just call this TW coin for ThirdWeb coin. And we won't add an image or a description, but feel free to do so if you are creating a token that you want to use. You can also update the metadata of this contract later on through your contract dashboard. So here for the network and chains, we're going to deploy this on the same network and chain we deployed our transfer token contract to. So we used Mumbai. I'm going to use the same thing, hit deploy now. And similar to how we deployed our transfer token contract, we are deploying this token contract, which is a pre-built contract that you can deploy directly from ThirdWeb's site. So we'll confirm this transaction. We'll sign the message to add it to our dashboard. And there you go. We have successfully deployed our test token contract. You can see here we have a contract checklist. The first item has been completed already, which was deploying our contract. The next item is to mint our first token. So we can head to the token tab to mint our first token. You can click the link here or on the left-hand navigation under the extension section. We have the tokens tab. And in the tokens tab, you can see there are no supply of TW coin, and we don't own any TW coin. But we do have this mint button here. So if I click on mint, I can now mint myself some TW coin. So we'll just say 100 for now. I can mint that token. We'll confirm that transaction. And once that has gone through, you can now see we have a total supply of 100 TW coins, and we own all 100 of those coins within the wallet that we just minted with. Now that we have a test token contract that we can use within our token transfer contract, we can now start building out our application, and we can use this token for an example just to make sure everything is working within our contract that we deployed. So let's build ourselves our application. I'm going to come back to my terminal here, and let me just clear this out. And we're going to create ourselves our very own application. So similar to what we did before, we're going to do npx thirdweb, again, add to latest to make sure we're getting the latest version. I'm going to do create, not contract this time, but create app. We can name our project. We'll just call this, transfer token app, so TT app. We're using EVM because we deployed our contracts on Mumbai testnet, which is an EVM blockchain. And for this application, I'm going to be using Next.js and TypeScript. And once that finishes, we'll just change into our project folder here. And for this tutorial project, I'm going to be using Chakra UI. I can show you folks here. So Chakra UI, hit this getting started. So Chakra UI is just a UI library here that you can use. And it's just going to allow us to create this app a bit quicker and have all of our components that we use just to look a little cleaner and everything. Now, you don't have to use Chakra for your project. If you're creating something similar to this, you can feel free to use anything you want. If you want to use Tailwind, or you just want to, write your own styles for your application, feel free to do so. But again, I am going to be using Chakra for this tutorial video. I'll add a link down in the descriptions below so you can link yourself and check out what Chakra has to offer. But in the getting started page here, we have our installation. I'm just going to go to the yarn here and copy this here because we are going to install that to our project as well. So I'm just going to paste that in here. We'll add Chakra to our project, and then we'll get started with that. And once everything is done, we'll, again, just open this up in our code editor. And the first thing we need to set up for our application, under the pages folder, we're going to go to our _app.tsx file. And this is going to be, you can see here, we have a thirdweb provider. And that thirdweb provider is going to be our main component here that connects our application to the blockchain. You can see the active chain here is set to an active chain, which right up here is set to Ethereum. We're going to change this, and you'll change it to the network or chain that you deployed your contracts to. So in this case, I deployed my contracts to Mumbai, so I'm changing that to Mumbai there. And I'm going to get rid of this import styles because we're not using the styles that came with the thirdweb app here. We're going to import the Chakra provider here. And we'll then wrap our component with the Chakra provider, which is going to allow us to use some of the Chakra components within our application. Next, I'm going to come back into my file directory here. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to name this const to hold some variables that we're going to be using throughout our application. In there, I'll add a new file. We'll just call this addresses.ts. And I'm going to paste some variables in here. So at the bottom here, I have some images that I'm going to be using throughout my application. They are uploaded to IPFS. You can also upload your own images to IPFS and use them as well. We'll go through that a little bit later on in the tutorial when we're dealing with the images here. But I have some pre-made ones here that I already uploaded. So that's what these ones are down here. Right up here, we have our transfer contract and our claim token contract. We're going to create that claim token contract later on in this video, but we do have our transfer contract already, so we can get that. We can come back to our token transfer contract, copy that, come back and paste that into our transfer contract address there. And again, this is just so we can reuse this address throughout our application by using the transfer contract address right over here. So what we can do here is I'm going to open up my terminal here in my code editor, and I'm going to run yarn dev, and we can take a look at what we have so far. So now when you create an application with thirdweb, you're going to be given some boilerplate templated code here. You can see that this is what we get. Now it looks a little funky because we overrid the styles that came with this app with the chakra components. So that's why normally you'll get a black background and everything, but it may look a little weird because of the chakra provider that we used. But you can see here we have a connect wallet button, so we can connect a wallet to our application and everything. But we're going to be getting rid of this stuff and creating our own app. If we take a look at the demo app that we took a look at the beginning of the video here, we're going to start off by creating this navigation bar at the top. That can disconnect here. So you can see we have the name of our application here, which is also a link back to our homepage here. We have a connect wallet button that allows us to connect a wallet to our application. You can also see that our nav links up here only appear when a wallet is connected. If we disconnect, those navigation links disappear and you can't click on them. Just because to use the application, you need to have a connected wallet, and we won't display those navigation links if there isn't a wallet connected. So again, we'll build that navigation bar first. So we'll come back to our code editor here. Let me just close my terminal here. And we're going to create in our file directory here a new folder. We're going to call it components. And in components, we're going to create a new file. We'll call that navbar.tsx. And then we'll create that navbar first. So we'll just create our navbar component. And that navbar, we're going to be, again, using Chakra throughout this tutorial. So Chakra does have something called container. And then we can set the max width of the container. Actually, we'll do container. Make sure we import that first. With the container, we can set the max width to, we'll just say 1440 pixels. And we'll give a padding to the y-axis of 4. We're going to then create a flex within this container, which is going to allow us to kind of just line up and align our navigation items. Make sure we import the flex here. And for our flex, we're going to set the flex direction here to row. We're going to justify the content to space between. And we're going to align our items in the center. And the first item we're going to add is going to be the name of our application. But that name is also going to be our link back to our homepage. So we'll just make sure that we link it back. And you can just put a slash, which will just reference back to your homepage. And in here, we're just going to add some text, which is another Chakra component. We'll just make sure we import that here. And that text will just be the name of our application. We'll just call it this transfer. We'll call it transfer token. And we can give this a font weight of bold. So if I save that, we're going to come back to our _app.tsx file here. And right above this components here, we're going to add our navbar. So we can add our navbar there. And now when we come back to our application, you can see we have now our little link here of our application that says transfer tokens. So next, let's add a connect wallet button. So we'll come back here and then we will add a connect wallet component, which is a thirdweb UI component. And all you need to do is add connect wallet here. And if we take a look back at our application, that adds a connect wallet button. We can connect our application here. And just like that, all the functionality to connect a wallet to your app done in one line of code. So let's just disconnect here. Actually, we'll keep this connected because we want to make sure that our nav links that we create, we can see them when we're creating them. Now, again, those nav links, we only want to display them if a wallet is connected. And we can do that by checking if there is a wallet address connected to our app. So I'm going to create a variable here called address. And we're going to use the use address hook from thirdweb. And what this use address hook does is it gets the wallet address of the connected address. If there is no connected wallet address, it's going to come back as undefined. So we can check here if there is an address, then we can display our links. If there is no address, these links won't display. So let's do our first one here. We'll do a link, which is going to go to our transfer page. We'll create another link here. That one is going to go to a claim page. So it's going to go to a /claim page. Oh yeah, and then these need to go all within a flex here. So let me just create this flex here and drop these links all within that. There we go. We're going to make sure that this has a flex direction of row. And then we'll also make sure that we don't need font weight here, but we'll add a margin right of 8. Same thing for this one. We'll add a margin right of 8. And then the last one is going to be a link to our profile page. So with this one here, we're going to, in our brackets, add some backticks and then profile. And then we're going to do with the profile for the wallet address that is connected. So we'll just add the wallet address there. And the text will be, we'll call it my account, not profile. And then we'll close that link tag there. So again, we created, one, we're checking to see if there is an address or a wallet address connected to our application. If there is, we'll display our links, which is a flex. We just flex direction row so that they are going left to right. And then we created links to our pages. And again, we're going to create a profile page where a viewer can take a look at their balances. So if we come back to our application here, we can see we have transfer, claim, and my account. Those are going to bring us to our pages. We don't have them set yet, so I'm not going to click on any of them. But if we disconnect, you can see now we don't see those nav links. And then when I connect my wallet back, we have them right over there again. Okay, so we have our nav bar. Now I'm going to create just a really basic footer that we can add at the bottom of our application. You can see here just a horizontal line with some text. If you're going to create a footer for your application, you can go and create the footer how you want. I'm just going to create a quick one here just so that we can pop it into the bottom of our app. So in our components folder here, I'm going to create a new file, call that one footer.tsx. And we're going to create that footer component. And for this footer component, we're going to create a container. That container is going to have a max width of 100%. Going to have a margin top, 100%, sorry. It'll have a margin top of 20 and a height of, we'll just set this to 100 pixels. Then we'll use a divider component from Chakra, which is just going to be that horizontal line. And beneath that, we'll create another container. That container will have a max width of 1440. And we'll just add some text that says footer. And that's going to do it for our footer. We'll go back to our _.apptsx here. And below our components, we'll add our footer. And we can take a look at our app again here. You can see we have our footer down here. Now that we have our nav bar and footer, let's work on our home page. If we come back to our index.tsx file here, you can see this is the boilerplate or templated code that comes with the application when you create it with thirdweb. We're going to delete all of that here. And we're going to delete this styles, and we're going to delete the connect wallet button because that is in our nav bar. So at the very top here, we're going to create a container. That container is going to have a max width of 1440. We'll just close this off here. And then we'll go and create our homepage. So again, if we take a look at that demo application that we had right over here, we're going to be creating this hero section first. All it is some text, image, and then we have a button that will take us to our transfer page. So we'll create that section first. Coming back, actually what we'll do first is upload an image. Again, I already have the images uploaded to IPFS. But if you want to upload your own image to use, you can head over to thirdweb. At the top here, at the top, you have some tabs. You can head to the storage tab and you can actually upload your images to IPFS right over here. So if I grab an image, I'm just going to grab that same image, drag it in. I can hit start upload. What this will do is upload and pin our image to IPFS, and we then get our IPFS hash right over here. If you copy that, you can then come back into your code editor. You can use it within your application, or in our case, under addresses here, you can just paste the hash here and then just use the variable here for your images throughout your application. So again, that's how you can easily upload your images or media and pin them to IPFS. But you can, again, create all your images that you're going to use throughout your application right here in this variables file. So again, let's create that hero section first. We're going to create a flex here. That flex is going to have a flex direction of row, because we're going to create the left and right of our hero section. We'll start with the left side first. So we're going to create another flex for that. Again, on the left side is going to be kind of like the information and the text about our app along with our button. So we'll set a flex direction. We'll make it column. We'll justify our content center. And we'll give it a width of 60%. So again, what I'm going to do next is create a stack. Stack is a component from Chakra. And what it's going to do is anything within our stack, it's just going to space it evenly. So we can set the spacing of the stack. I have it set to 4, but that will just add some padding and margin to all of our elements within this. So first one I'm going to do is create a heading here. And that heading, we'll make sure we import that, is going to say transfer token. We'll give it the font size of extra large. Then we'll create another heading below it. That one's just going to say, I'll just copy some text here. Send tokens to your friends and family. This is going to have a font size of 6XL. Below that, I'm going to add some text with the font size of extra large. This is just going to have that information about our application. Select from a selection of tokens and transfer it to your friends and family. Just going to import that text here. And then we're going to have a button that is going to link to our transfer page, and that's going to be a button called transfer, or make a transfer, we'll call it. We'll make sure that we import link and that we import our button here. And if we take a look back at our application, you can see here we have transfer token, send tokens to your friends and family, some of the text here, and we have that button that says make a transfer. And we'll get rid of that blue. We'll just keep it the white button. Yep. And we'll also give this, we'll also have to give this flex here that is wrapping our hero section a height. And we'll make the height 75% of the view height. Oops, let's put that. So there we go. We kind of enlarged that there. We have our text here that's taking up 60%. Next, we'll add our image to the right side. So within our flex here, after this flex, we'll create a box, which is kind of like a div from Chakra. We'll just import that. And within that box, we're going to be using a UI component called Media Renderer. This is going to be a thirdweb component here. It takes a source, and that source, it can be an IPFS hash, and that will render the image for us. So we're going to be using our hero image URL. You can also set the height, we'll say 100%, and the width we'll say 100% as well. So come back to our app. You can see we now have our image right over here and our text for our hero section. Next, if we look at what we need to build, we're going to build this little section here that kind of has an image and some of the steps to create a transfer, which is select a token, who you want to send it to, and write a message. So the first thing we're going to do before we start creating this section is we're going to create a component for one of these cards here so that we can reuse it for these steps. So if I come back to my code editor, I'm going to, in my files, create a new component. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this feature card.tsx. We're going to create a type for our props here because we are going to require a few things here. We're going to require what step this is, which is going to be a string. So step 1, 2, or 3, title, which will be a string, and then the description of the step right there, which will be a string as well. Then we'll create the component for this. And for this component, we're going to create a card, which is a component from Chakra. Just add some drop shadow and everything to. So what we'll do here is we'll just add some padding. Oh, let's import this first. Add some padding on the x-axis of 8. And we'll add some padding on the top and bottom of 10. Again, in here, we're going to use a stack component again. We'll give it a spacing of 8. And within that stack, we're first going to create a flex here. This is going to be for the title and the step. So we'll give it a flex direction of row, and we'll align the items center. So again, we're going to have some text here. The first one is going to be the step. We'll give this a font size, font size of large, and the margin right of 4. Then we'll add the step. We'll make that one a heading, which will be the title of the step. We'll give that the font size of 2XL. And then below that, we will just add some text. That will be the description. And we'll give that a font size of large and, and a margin left of 10. So again, this is just our feature card. So coming back to our index here, we're going to create, again, this section here for our application. So let's go back to here. We're in our index.tsx file. Under our flex, we're going to create a simple grid. We can specify how many columns we want in our grid. So I'm going to do columns here. We're going to have 2 columns. We can add some spacing to our columns. I'm going to add it 4 and add some margin to the top of our grid of 4 as well. So the first thing in our simple grid is we're going to do the left-hand side, which is going to be our image. So I'm going to, again, use our, actually, I'll create a box here. And in that box, we'll create our media renderer. This time, our media renderer, our source image, is going to be, what did we name it? Our features image. I'll just copy that. So our features image, and then we'll set the height to 100 and we'll set the width to 80%. Make sure that we import that. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to create a flex. We're going to give it a flex direction of column. We're going to justify the content center, and we'll align the items center as well. In there, we'll create a stack that has a spacing of 4. And what we're going to do is create a feature card for each one of those steps. And back in our feature card, let's just make sure to export it here. Then we'll make sure we import it here. And again, our feature card requires a few things. We need step. So we'll just do 0, 1 for this one. We need the title, which is going to, I'll just actually copy this here. We're going to create our feature card. So our step is going to be, first one is 0, 1, which is going to be select a token, description of select a list of verified tokens. And then we'll also have step 2 and 3. I'm just going to copy that here, paste that in. And then we now have our 3 steps. So if we come back to our application, you can see we now have that image on the left-hand side here. And then we have our 3 steps that we just created. Now, if we look at our demo app again, there's still this recent transfer section down here. We're going to add that later on when we create this recent transfer component. But for right now, we're just going to create the hero section and the step section of our homepage. So we have those set here. The next thing we're going to do is create our transfer page. So again, we're going to create that page that when we click on the transfer link up here, or this make a transfer button, it'll bring us to a page where we can transfer our tokens. So in our pages folder, we're going to create a new file. We're going to call that transfer.tsx. And we're going to create this transfer page. We're going to create, we'll call this a transfer page. And for this, we'll create again a container with the max width of 1440. We're going to create a flex in here. And this flex, we'll make sure we import that. This flex is going to have a flex direction of column. It's going to have our justify content center and align items center as well. Now, if we come back to our app, if we hit make a transfer, it should bring us to a transfer page. It is going to be blank right now, but we're going to create our transfer page here. If we look at our demo app again, let's hit make a transfer. We're going to first create this transfer card up here. And then after that, we're going to create that recent transfers component that we can plug into this transfer page along with the home page as well. But we're going to create this transfer card where we can select our token that we want to transfer along with filling out this form and being able to transfer our token. So back in our code editor here, I'm going to create a new component. So in my components folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this transfer card.tsx. And this transfer card is basically going to be the card that was at the top of our transfer page. So I'm going to export, create our transfer card here with returns. All right, and for our transfer card, we're going to get a few things that we need to use within the transfer form or be able to display certain information on our transfer card. First thing we're going to do is get our address using the use address hook again from thirdweb. Again, that checks to see if there is an address or a wallet address connected to our application, along with giving us what the wallet address is. We're going to get our contract. And this is going to be our token transfer contract because, again, we're going to have to interact with that contract in order to call the transfer function from that contract. So we're going to store that under a contract variable here. We're going to use the use contract hook from thirdweb. And this is going to take our transfer contract address. I'll import that. And this is going to get our contract for us. And all we need to do is run this use contract hook, and we'll be able to interact with our transfer token contract. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the verified tokens from our transfer contract here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create this first. I'm going to create a const. I'm going to have data that returns. And I'm going to call that verified tokens. We can also check is loading, which is going to check if our data has loaded. And we're going to be using a use contract a read hook from thirdweb. Now, what this use contract read hook is let me just import this first. So use contract read allows us to get a read function from our contract. So I'm going to come back to my dashboard here. So we go to our token transfer contract. On the left-hand navigation under the Explore tab, you can see we have write functions and read functions. Now, write functions are going to be our add, remove, and transfer functions, because those are functions that are actually going to be writing something to the blockchain or our contract. Our read functions will be able to view information of our contract. So again, we can view the owner, which is the wallet address that we deployed the contract with. We can also get verified tokens. You can see here that we get back an array, but the array is empty because we haven't verified a token yet. And the same thing goes with the verified tokens list. We can check a certain ID or key value of an array and see what that verified token is. But we don't have any tokens verified, so this isn't going to return us anything. So what we want to do is get the verified tokens though, because we want to be able to display what the verified tokens are in our transfer card. That way a user can select one of those verified tokens. Right here is the function name, is just get verified token. I'm going to copy that real quick. So coming here, our use contract read is going to need two things. One, it's going to need to know what contract this is going to need be getting the read function from, which is our contract that we got up here. The second thing is what read function is it going to be calling, which is our get verified tokens. And this is going to, again, return us an array of the verified tokens. So in this return here, I'm going to, so for our component here, I'm just going to return a card. That card is going to have a width of 50% and a padding of 20. And over here, what we're going to do first is just console log our verified tokens. So back in my transfer app here, I'm just going to add my transfer card. And we can take a look back at our application. So you can see we have a card here. If you can kind of see it, there's the drop shadow and everything. And we can see here, if we open up our console, we have an array. The array has nothing in it though, because again, we don't have any verified contracts, but it is getting what our verified token contracts are. But next, let's actually verify our token. So we'll take our test token here. Again, we'll come back to this and we can copy that contract address right there. If we come back to our token transfer contract, under that same Explore tab, you can go to the write function, and we can actually interact and call these functions directly through our thirdweb dashboard. So under write, under add verified token, I'll paste the contract address of the token we want to verify, and I can hit execute. And this is going to verify this token address so that we can use it within our contract. So we'll confirm that transaction. You can see that went through. Now, if we come back to read and we hit get verified tokens, we now have one contract address, which is the token contract address we just verified. And we come back to our app here. You can now see that our console log is now showing us that one token that we just verified from our contract. So again, back in our transfer card.tsx, we know that we are able to get those verified tokens. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a state variable and function to handle the selection of the token. So if we come back to our demo application again here, you can see we highlight green on the token that we have selected here. So what we're going to do is create a state variable to keep track of what token we have selected. So under our verified tokens, I'm just going to create one for selected tokens. We're just going to get rid of this. Make sure we import our use state. And then we'll also create a handle token selection here, which is going to be setting the token address, which is a string. And then we're going to set set the selected token to that token address. So in our card here, we'll add a heading. We'll call this transfer. The heading will be, and then below the heading, we'll have our text, and we'll say select token, because someone will have to select the token that they want to transfer here. We'll give this text a margin top of 4. So we'll take a look at our app here. Yeah, we have transfer, we have select token. The next thing, what we're going to do is create these tokens selection here. Now we're going to create a component for this because if we add in more coins in the future, tokens in the future, we want them to automatically appear here, and we'll test that out a little later in this tutorial. So what we're going to do is, again, create a component for those token selections. So in my file directory, in my components, I'll create a new file. I'll call this one token selection.tsx. Now we're going to create some props for this. And what we're going to need is our token address. And then we're going to have is selected, which is going to be a Boolean of true or false. And we'll then create our token selection here, which is going to be a card. Make sure we import that. And our card is going to have a padding of 4, a margin right of 2, and a border of 2 pixels, and it'll be solid. The border color, we'll add the border color later because we're going to change the border color to, depending if it is selected or not. So what we'll have to do is for each of those tokens, so to kind of, let's go back to our transfer card here. So in our transfer card.tsx, again, we're going to get back an array of verified tokens. That array is going to be an array of token contract addresses, and we're going to map through our array of verified tokens. So each item in our map is going to be a token address. And with that, we're going to get that token address, and we're going to create a little block for each one of those tokens that a user can select for a token that they want to use. So what we're going to do here is get the contract of the token. Again, using the use contract hook, we're going to be using the token address. Import use contract here. So we'll get the contract for the token address that was given to us when we map through our array of verified tokens. Then we can use a new hook, and that hook is going to be our contract metadata. So we can name this contract metadata. We can check the loading state of that. And then we're going to use a hook called use contract metadata, and we give it our contract that we got up here, and it'll give us back our contract metadata. Then we're going to create, I'm going to do let coin border color equal gray 200. So this is going to be if a coin is not selected, the border color will be gray. If the coin is selected, we'll make the border color, for this case, blue. So now for the card, we can set the border color here to coin border color. And in our card, we want to make sure that we have our contract metadata. So we want to make sure it's done loading. So if our contract metadata is done loading, we'll show the information of our token. If it is still loading, we're going to show a spinner, which is a Chakra UI component, which is just like a loading spinner. And then for our coin, we're going to just get a box here. And in that box, we're just going to show some text. Make sure we import this and import to our spinner. And that text is going to just show the symbol of our token. And we can get that by getting our contract metadata. And in our contract metadata, we have a symbol, which is going to be for the metadata of a ERC20 token or any contract. You have a symbol for your tokens. So it's going to display that symbol. So in our case, I think we made it TW coin. So if we come back here, actually back in our transfer card.tsx, we have to make sure we map and display our tokens. So first thing we're going to do is check that our is verified tokens. We'll check if the loading state of it is finished. And if it is finished, again, we are going to take our verified tokens. We are going to map through those tokens. And we're going to get the token address. And again, for each token, we're first going to create a box here. And that box is going to, we have a key that we set for our mapping, which we'll just set to token address. On click, we're going to change the selected token to the selected token. And then in that box, we are going to create a token selection. Oh, not handle, token selection. Actually, did we export it again? I forgot to export it again. Export token selection. And then in here, we'll do our token. So for our token selection, we need to set our token address, which is going to be the token address that we get when we map through it. Then we're going to do is selected, and our selected token is going to equal the token address of the token address that we map through. So if we save that, come back to our application, you can see we have a loading bar here, and then we have our TW coin. And then we'll also make sure that we'll come back to our code editor here. We'll wrap this in a flex with a direction of row here, and we'll grab this here and put it in that flex just so that they will be some more of a square here. And then of course our following coins will be added here to the right. So next, what we'll do is again take a look at our demo app. Let me connect a wallet here really quick. When a user selects a coin, we want to display the balance that the user has of that token so that they know what they can and cannot transfer when using this application. So we're going to create a component to take care of that balance. So again, in here, in our file directory, under components, we'll create a new file called token balance.tsx, and we'll create our type and props again. This is going to just need our token address, which is a string. We'll then create our component here, and I'll make sure to export it again this time. Now, to check a token balance, we'll need a few things. So again, we're going to store the address using the use address hook from thirdweb because we need the wallet address to know what wallet address we're checking the balance for. So we'll also need the contract of the token that we're trying to check the balance for. So we're going to, again, get our contract using the use contract hook. And then we'll be using the token address that is selected. And then finally, we're going to get the token balance. So we're going to get data. This will be the token balance. We're using that. This will be called, we'll just call it balance. And we will use the use token balance hook. And we need to just pass it two things: the contract that we're checking the balance of and the wallet address that we're checking the balance of. So we need to know what wallet is connected, what contract we're checking, so that we know what balance to show. And then for return here, all we're going to do is return a box. We'll have a margin top of 4. And we're going to check that we don't have our balance loading and that we have our balance. And if we do, we are going to show some text here. Make sure we import text. Oh, wrong area. up here from Chakra. And that text is going to show the balance. We'll just get rid of this there and show the balance here. And for our balance, we have in there a display value, which is going to give us the string of our balance. So we'll save that, come back to our transfer card. And then below this, we will add in our token balance, which is going to be of our selected token. So coming back to our app here, I have a wallet connected. We select our token. You can see we have a balance of 0. Let me actually switch to the wallet that has that token. And you can see right here that wallet that we have connected now has a balance of 100, which was the initial tokens that we minted to our wallet when we created that contract. So now looking back at our demo one, we have to create this form and our button for completing out the transfer. So let's create this form of, we're going to create, user has to put the address that they want to send to, the amount, and then the message that they want to add into their transfer. So first we're going to create some state variables and everything to handle the information that is inputted for our form. So we're going to create a state variable here. We're going to call this form data. And we're going to use state. And in here, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need the receiver, which we'll just leave as an empty string here. We're going to need the amount, and we're going to need the message. Then we'll create a function to handle the change. So we'll just do handle change. This is going to take our event, but it is also going to take the name of the event that this is going to be called on. And in here, we're going to set form data, and we're going to use the previous state. And I have one too many here. So our previous state, and then we are setting the whatever name is to our target value. So depending on which one of these has a change, we are going to set the value of that one to whatever is inputted in those inputs. So now we'll create the actual form input. In here, we're going to create text, and we're going to give it a margin top of 4. We're going to say send to. We'll then create input field here. Make sure we import that. The placeholder is just going to be a fake wallet address. Type is going to be text. The value is going to be set to our form data.receiver. So our form data, the receiver section here. And our on change, again, if any change happens here, we're changing the value of it to, we're going to be changing the value of the receiver. We'll do the same thing for amount. So again, create a text that says amount. The input will just show zeros. This is going to be a type number because they're putting in a number for here. Value is going to be set to the form data amount, and again, handling the changes the same way. And lastly, we have the message. User can add a short message. It's going to be a text, and that's going to be set to the form data.message. So coming back to our app here, we now have our TW coin. We can select it. We can put in the wallet address we want to send to, the amount we want to send, and the message we want to send as well. Last, we have to add that button here, which is going to do a few things, but it's basically going to initiate our transfer function from our smart contract. Now, this button is, again, going to be, so this button, we're going to create a separate component for the button. So in my components folder, I'm going to create another file called transfer button.tsx. And for this transfer button, we're going to create our props again. It is going to take a few things that we are going to need, because this button is going to transfer a token depending on the token that is selected in our transfer card. So we need the token address, we need the receiver, who it's sending to, we need the amount, and the message. So again, if you remember the function that we created for transfer, we need to know what token is being sent, who it's sending to, the amount, and the message. So we can always double check. If we come back to our token transfer contract and we go to the right functions here and we go to transfer, we need those four things. Again, the token address that we are transferring, the address we are sending the tokens to, the amount of tokens that we're sending, and a message that we want to attach to that transfer. So again, those are the four things that we need. Then we can create our button component here. Make sure we export that. Now we're going to need a couple contracts to interact with this button. So the first one that we need, we're going to call this one contract, but rename it to our token contract. So we're going to use contract, and we're going to be using the token address that is given to us. The second contract we need to interact with is our transfer contract, which is going to be our transfer contract. And the component that we're going to be returning is something called a Web3 button, which is a thirdweb UI component. And it makes it really easy to interact with our contracts here through a button. So we can just say here, our button is going to be called transfer token. Now, our Web3 button is going to require us to pass it a couple things. First, we need the contract address that it is going to be interacting with. In this case, it is going to be our transfer contract. And it then also needs the action that it is going to perform on that contract. Now, we can't just have it call the transfer function. The thing with ERC20 tokens, though, is we need to set approval for our transfer contract to have the ability to actually transfer those tokens for us. So our button is going to do two things. One, we need to set the approval on our token contract to allow our transfer contract to transfer the tokens. And then we need to actually call the transfer function from our transfer contract to then transfer those tokens. So for our action here, we're actually going to create an async function on our contract. And we're going to do, again, two things. The first thing we're going to do is set the approval for our token contract to allow our transfer contract to transfer those tokens. So we're going to do await, and then on our token contract, we are going to use something called set. Actually, it's not coming up on here. On our token contract address, we can also specify the type of contract it is. If it was deployed through thirdweb, which is token, that should allow us to now, on our token contract, call the set allowance here. And we're going to be setting the allowance to our transfer contract address. And we're setting the allowance to the amount that is going to be set. So we do need to kind of convert this into way, because a user will be putting in a whole number, like 3, 5, 10 tokens, depending on how much they want to send. But we're going to have to convert this to way, which is a conversion of units for Ether, which is normally what has to be passed in a smart contract. So we're going to do ethers dot utils dot parse eth amount, and then we're going to make sure that's a string. So we'll import ethers there. So again, to set the allowance, we have to set the allowance of our token contract to allow the transfer contract to be able to transfer the amount of tokens that we select that we want to transfer. Then once that is done, we are going to await, and on our transfer contract, we are going to call a function from our contract, and that function is going to be our transfer function. And then after that, in an array, we have to pass the array of arguments that need to be passed to that function. So again, we can look here at our contract on our dashboard under write and under transfer. First thing is the token address, then the address we're sending to, the amount, and then the message. So the first one we're going to do is our token address. Next is going to be the receiver, and this is all going to be through the props that we pass through to this component. The next one, we do have to, again, convert our ethers, utils dot parse ether and amount. It doesn't need to be a string though. And then the message. So again, we are creating a Web3 button, which is a UI component from thirdweb that is going to be interacting with our transfer contract address. And the action that we're calling is one, we are setting the allowance so that our token contract, whatever contract it is of the token that we select, is allowing the transfer contract to transfer the amount that we have inputted into our form. And then once we have set allowance, we are going to call the transfer function from our transfer contract and pass the parameters and everything that we need to call that function. Now we can also add something like a toast that will appear once our transaction is successful. We can do that. We can create a toast here, and we'll use the use toast from Chakra, which will allow us to create that really easy. And basically we can, on our Web3 button, we can also set something that is called when a transaction is successful. And what we'll do is we'll call our toast. And with Chakra, we can add in a little toast here so that when a transfer goes through, a little toast from the bottom will pop up saying our transfer was successful. So now going back to our transfer card, we can now add in this button. So we're going to create a box down here with a margin top of, we'll give it 8. Now we're only going to display this button if a user has a wallet address connected to our application, because if they don't have a wallet connected, we don't want them to have the ability to interact and try and transfer tokens that they don't have. So again, we're going to check if a address is connected to our application. And if an address isn't, we're just going to say, please connect your wallet to continue. If a wallet is, we'll put in our transfer button. And again, our transfer button will need a few things. It's going to need the token address, which is going to be the selected token. It's going to need the receiver, which is going to be from our form data. Our amount, which is going to be from our form data. We do need to pass it as a string though. And then we have the message, which is going to be from our form data as well. So now coming back to our application here, we now have this transfer token button. So we can actually now interact with this form and send out a transaction. So I'm just going to get a wallet address to send this to real quick. So I have a wallet address. So I selected TW coin, put in a wallet address. The amount we want to send, we'll send 10 here. And we'll just say this is our first transfer as our message, and then we'll hit transfer token. So the first transaction that's going to come up is setting the approval. So again, we can set approval for 10. And then the second transaction will be confirming the actual transfer function from our transfer contract. So it's the second one. And there you go. You can see our toast popped up saying our transaction or transfer was successful. You can see that we now have a balance of 90 TW coins because we sent 10 to this other wallet address. So actually, if I connect that wallet address, let's connect that one that we had there and connect it. You can see now I have a balance of 10 TW coins here. Next thing we're going to do is display the recent events. So we come back to our demo app here. We want to be able to see the recent transfers and display some of that information on our application. We'll display it on the transfer page here, as well as on our home page here, so people can see what the recent transactions were. So coming back to our code editor here, I'm going to create a new component. So under my components here, I'm going to create a new file called events. events.tsx. And this is just going to be our events component here. Not a page, but just events. And we are going to return here our component that will display the events that are happening on our transactions. So what I'm going to do first is create a function here that is going to truncate our wallet addresses, because we don't want to show the whole thing because they're just really long. So we'll do that and have it kind of just cut our address and show us just a bit of it. Now for our events, we're going to need to be able to get the events to display. So first we need to get our contract again, which is going to be our, we're going to use the use contract hook, and we're going to be getting our transfer contract. And again, if you remember from when we created our smart contract, we are emitting events onto the blockchain, and we'll be able to read those events and display them on our application. So we're going to get those events. We're going to get the data of events. We can check is loading, and we're going to use the use contract events hook. And again, we're going to need to get those events. So first we need to specify what contract are we trying to get these events from. Then we can pass what events are we looking for. So if we come back to our contract dashboard here and we go to overview, you'll see these events here. And this is the name of the event, which is transaction completed, which is what we named that event in our smart contract. So these are the events that we are looking for because these events mean that a transfer has been completed. So we're looking for transaction completed. Now, on top of that, we can kind of filter through and add some filters of what are we trying to get out of this. Because we can't search every single block on the blockchain, we're going to query our filter, and we're going to query this, and we're going to do from block, and then we're going to set it, we'll set it back 7,000 blocks so that we know we can get things that happen, probably within the past day or two. And again, that is going to return us an array of events that have happened on our contract that have the transaction completed event. So now let's create our component that is going to display this for us. So we're going to create a box here, and we're going to set the margin top of this box to 20, and we're going to set the width of this to 100%. So we'll give it a heading here. This heading will be recent transfers. Now we're going to first check that we have our events loading. And if they are still loading, we're just going to show again a spinner from Chakra. And once we have our events loaded, we're going to take our events. We're going to map through our events. We're also going to get the event, also the index of the event. And for each event, we'll make there. So for each event, we're going to create a card. We'll set the key on that card to the index. We'll set the padding to 8 and the margin on the top and bottom to 4. So in this card, we're going to display, I'm just going to add this in here, import these really quick. We're going to display the spinner, the to and the from and to wallet addresses. We're going to truncate those addresses though. So the sender and the receiver, we're just going to shorten those addresses, add some border and everything to make it look nice on our card. We'll then also display the text here and display the message that the event is displaying for that transaction. So we can go on the event.data.message, and then we'll just increase this font size to extra large here. And then we can also put the amount. So we'll get the text here and we'll say amount. And the amount we can do from event again, dot data dot amount. Now this amount is going to give us back a big number, so like the way amount. So we have to do the reverse of what we were doing when we were submitting the form. So we're going to do ethers dot utils and make sure we import ethers here. And then we have a format ether, which we can then take the amount and format it, and it'll give us a nice whole number that we can view in our app. Now on this map, we're going to call this in reverse here. That way we get the most recent transfers up top and the older ones will be down at the bottom. So now in our transfer page here, under transfer card, let's add our events. And on our index page, under this simple grid, let's add our events component as well. So we come back to our application. We now have our first transfer, which was our first transfer that we sent 10 TW coins. You can see the address that it was sent from and the address it was sent to. That is on our transfer page. We can check back on our home page and we now see that transfer down there as well. Cool, and our transfer app is now coming along. So now let's add a claim page here where people can claim a token. That way, people can start transferring these tokens. Because right now we only have this TW coin, and I am the only owner of this TW coin. So let's create a token that can be claimed by anyone and that can be transferred by anyone. So let's go back to our thirdweb website here. We're going to open up a new tab. I'm going to browse contracts. And remember how we were talking about token contracts in the beginning? We're now going to deploy a TokenDrop contract. So we're going to select TokenDrop and deploy. We're going to call this a drop token. And then we'll just call this symbol drop here. We're going to deploy it to the same network or chain. So Mumbai in this case. Hit deploy. We'll confirm that transaction. We'll assign to add it to our dashboard. And once it's been deployed, again, we can check out the contract checklist. So we deployed our contract. We now need to set a claim condition. So again, these tokens with a token drop, they're claimable. So we can actually sell these tokens for a cost if we want to. Or in this case, we're going to head over to the claim conditions tab. And I'm going to add a claim phase. So again, I'm going to do a public phase in this one. If you want to learn more about claim conditions and the different claim conditions, I'll add some links to the documentations down below, as well as a video that we made that kind of goes over in more detail the different claim conditions or phases. But I'm going to do a public. Here you can set how much tokens you want to have available for people to purchase. You can also put a purchase amount. In this case, we're going to have it unlimited and free so anyone can claim these tokens. And we're going to save this. And what we're going to do is create a little claim page on our application that is going to allow someone to claim this. So we'll confirm that transaction to save that claim condition. So again, you could sell a token if you wanted to, if you wanted people to purchase the token. But in this case, again, we're making this free just for this tutorial. So once that has been saved, what we'll do is we'll take this token or contract address. We'll come back to our application. Under our addresses file, we can put that under our claim token contract address. Now we can, in our pages, create a new page. We'll call this claim.tsx. And we can create our claim page. So we'll create a page for our claim page here. And in our claim page, we will have to, again, get some information to actually be able to claim our token. So we're going to actually get our claim token contract. We'll use the use contract hook again. This is going to be our claim, no, not image. This is going to be our claim token contract. Import this. We're going to get some information about that contract. So we're going to get the metadata. look at our contract metadata. And again, we're going to use the contract metadata hook and give it our contract that we just got above that. For this, we're just gonna create our own claim amount and everything that we can use. So we'll let people claim 10 tokens at a time. And we're also gonna create another toast here for when the claim is successful. So for our page, we're going to create a container. That container is going to have a max width of 1440 pixels, a height of, we'll set it to 80% of the view height here. We're going to create a simple grid. That simple grid is going to have 2 columns. The first is going to be on the left side, and we are going to create a flex here, and we're going to put a image of our token. We just created our own image here, so we'll to media renderer. We're going to set the source here, and I'm going to set it to our claim token image, and we'll set the height to 100% and the width to 100% as well. So let's just save that. We'll come back to our app and take a look here. So we'll go claim. Right there we have our token image. So now let's create the actual claim section for our token. So again, we're going to create a flex here. We're going to give it a flex direction of column. We're going to justify the content center here, and we're going to create a stack here with a spacing of 4, and we're going to give this a heading here that says claim, and we can make this whatever token it is. So we'll call this on our contract metadata. We can get the symbol. So it displays the symbol of our token. We'll then create some text here that is going to say, we'll just copy this here. We're going to create some text here that says, you can claim. I spelled contract. Oh, I spelled metadata wrong. That's okay. We'll just keep it that is there. And it just has, again, we're just putting in a description, but we're making it to display whatever symbol we pass through for our token contract. We'll then add another text that just says claim 10 tokens of contract wrong. And then below that, we're going to create a Web3 button that allows a user to claim those tokens. So we're going to create a box here to put our button in. Then we're going to create a Web3 button. This Web3 button is going to say claim tokens. Again, our Web3 button needs at least 2 things. So our contract address, which in this case will be our claim token contract address. Then the action. And for this one, we are going to we can call a function from our contract. So with thirdweb here, we can actually specify that this is an ERC20 token. And we can actually do a claim function right here and just specify the amount we want to claim. And in this case, it's just going to be our claim amount. So what we have it set to right now is 10 tokens. So when they click the button, they'll claim 10 tokens. And then we can also create another toast for when it's successful. So now coming back to our app here, what do we have heading for our claim? We don't have there. There we go. So now we have our claim page here. Let me switch over to our wallet here. So we can see here, we can claim 10 tokens. So if we hit that claim button, we should get a transaction that pops up, allowing us to claim those tokens. You can see our claim was successful. But now when we head over back to our transfer, we still only have our TW coin because that's the only verified coin that we can transfer with our transfer contract. So let's add in our new drop coin. So we can get our drop token. Let's copy that contract address. We'll head back over to our token transfer contract again. We'll go to explore and let's add another verified token. So we'll paste in our new drop token contract address. We'll execute this function here, confirm that transaction. And now once this transaction goes through, we should automatically see our token appear, and we should be able to select it and transfer that token already. So let's go back to our app here. And yep, you can see we now have drop token. So if we select that, we can see we have 10 because we had claimed that 10 drop tokens initially. Or we can check out our TW coin, which we have a balance of 94. So as you add in your verified tokens to your transfer contract, they should appear here and you'll be able to select the different tokens that you have. All right, and then the final thing we're gonna do with our application is create our My Account page. So if we come back to our demo app here, and we come to the My Account page, it's going to load up and show us the balances of all the verified tokens and what our balances are, and kind of just show this little avatar with our wallet address right here. So coming back to our code editor, we're going to create a new page. Now in our pages folder, we're going to actually create a new folder first. We're going to call this profile. And then we're going to create a file within that profile folder. In brackets, we're going to call this wallet address and then .tsx. And in here, let's export default our profile page. And now we can create our profile page. Now in our profile page, we only want to show the information for the connected wallet address. So again, we're going to get and store the wallet address using the use address hook under a address variable. We also want to shorten up our wallet address and not show the whole long thing. So we'll create a truncate address here function again to shorten that. Then we will get our contract address of our transfer contract address. So we're going to get our contract. We're going to call this one transfer contract. And we're going to use the use contract and our transfer contract address. And just like we did in our transfer card, we're going to get the verified tokens again. That way we can display a list of the verified tokens. So again, we're going to use the use contract read hook on our transfer contract, and we're going to read and get the get verified tokens, which will give us back the array of verified tokens. So in our page here, we're going to create a container. That container is going to have a max width of 1440 pixels. And we'll give it a padding top and bottom of 4. We're only going to display the information of the address. So if there is no address or connected wallet, we'll just put down here, please connect your wallet. And if there is a wallet connected, we're going to create a flex here. And we'll create another flex on this side that has a flex direction of column, a margin right of 8, and a padding of 10. And we're just going to display an avatar, which is a chakra component. We'll give it the size of 2XL, make it a little bigger. And we'll give it a margin right of 4. And then beneath that, in text, we're going to display, actually we have, we'll use this one here. We'll display the address, add some border radius, a border around it, but we're going to truncate the address so that it's a bit shorter. So if we save that, we can actually take a look at our app here. If we go to My Account, it shows the avatar here, our wallet address. Next thing we need to do is display the verified tokens and our balances. So we'll need to create a card that displays those balances. So we're going to create a new file in our components here. We'll call this a balance card.tsx. This balance card, we're going to have our type props here. And all this does is it takes our token address depending on the token that it's displaying. So again, for this, we're going to have to get the address because we need to know the balance of the connected wallet. We're going to get our contracts here. So first contract we're going to get, or actually the only contract we're going to get is our token contract. Use the use contract hook, which is going to take the token contract that we take in for this component. Then we're going to get the contract metadata. So we'll get data, contract, metadata. Then we're going to use the use contract metadata on our contract. Then we're going to get the token balance. So we can get the data, we'll just say balance. Again, we can use the use token balance of the contract and the address that we get that is connected to our application. And then finally, I'm just going to paste it in here and import everything. Sorry, close that. So for this card, we're going to display a card with width and height of 100%, some border and a border color. We're going to check and make sure that our contract metadata is loaded so we have the information to display on our card. If not, we're going to show a spinner. So once we have that contract metadata, we're going to display a stack in here that is going to show the symbol of the token. And then it's going to show some text that says balance. And then under balance, we're going to display the balance of the connected wallet. And if it's still loading the balance, we're going to show a spinner for that. So now back in here, we can add that balance card under here. Actually, first, we're going to have to map through everything. So we're going to double check that we have everything loaded from, and we have all our verified tokens. If we don't have our verified tokens, we'll show a spinner here. Once we have our verified tokens, again, we are going to get our verified tokens, map through them. We'll also get, and for each verified token, we're going to show a balance card. And did I not export this again? No, I did. Well, token balance is what we called it. So token balance, or actually we should name that balance card. Let's see right here. Rename that balance card. Go. Okay, and then for our balance card, again, we need that token. Well, one, we'll set the key, and then we need the token address, which is going to be the token address that we get when we map through our verified tokens. Then we'll import spinner, and that should be our my account. So now back in our application, you can see we see TW coin, our balance is 90, and then we see our drop token, and our balance is 10 for this wallet. I can switch my wallets here. Actually, go to that one. And you can see TW coin, we have a balance of 10, but we don't have any drop tokens in this wallet. And there you have it. We built a blockchain application that allows us to transfer tokens from one wallet to another. And in our contract, we made it a little bit different than just transferring tokens out of your wallet. We made it so that only verified tokens can be transferred, along with adding a message to your transfer as well. So again, this was a very simple application to build, showcasing how you can build your very own custom smart contracts with ThirdWeb, along with building out a fully functional application with ThirdWeb's SDK, and how simple and easy it is to get your contract and be able to interact with it with your web application. Now we'll have links down in the description for all the information you need to build this application for yourself. If you do build this application, try some new things out, add some new functions and features to the smart contract, and share with us in our Discord channel or on social media the changes that you've made and what you got to implement into this project. But again, I hope you folks found this video helpful and you found some value in it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on tutorial videos just like this. And if you haven't joined our Discord yet and joined the amazing community of builders just like yourself, we'll drop a link down in the description for that as well. If you have any questions or you need any support, you can drop your questions in our Discord and we have a team happy to help you out there. But again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video, you found some value in it, and until next time, see ya.